Hello, and welcome to the Art of Intuition podcast. My name is Susan Jane, and I believe that trusting your intuition is the best way to live your life with meaning and purpose. Each week you will hear about how you can connect, develop, and trust your intuition through interviews with other guests and my own personal experiences. Join me to understand how your intuition can guide you towards a life full of meaning and loving purpose. Hello and welcome to the Art of Intuition podcast. The Voice of Intuition podcast. I am trying to change it and remember, but it doesn't always happen. Today we have a lovely guest on. Her name is Rylee, and she's a coach, an intuition master coach, and a spiritual activator. Now, when I read that is what sort of really attracted my attention. I've gone, what is a spiritual activator? Because I class myself as the intuitist. Now, the mentalist deals with all our thinking and our thoughts, and the intuitist deals with our feelings and how we're feeling. So when she's got spiritual activator on her bio, I went, oh, that sounds really cool. How do we do that? And what's that involved? But before we move to Rylee, I'm going to ask you to subscribe or like or share, do what we need to do, because we want to get this information out there to as many people as we can. And that's what it's all about. Empowering. Well, I don't like the word empowering because it means if you look up the word empowering, it's giving permission for somebody else. No, we like to empower. So we give ourselves the permission to go forward. So with no further ado, I'm going to stop talking because I do that too often. I'm going to introduce the lovely Rylee. Welcome on board, Rylee.
Hello, Susan. It's so wonderful to connect with you here today. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
It is such a pleasure. And I have said it before and I will say it again. I am so excited but honored to be able to meet some of the beautiful people that I meet. And of course, you're one of them. It's just great. I love it. So first of all, Rylee, tell the listeners how you got to be where you are today. Like a little bit of your background story would be lovely.
Yes, thank you. So, we all have a reason. We all have a reason why we got somewhere, how we got there, what called us. I was someone who was never the child who saw the spirits in the closet. I was raised relatively Catholic or Sunday Christian, if you understand that term. And I didn't really have necessarily a strong faith or background in anything to do with energy or spirit or any of it. And I lived a relatively great life. There's always food on the table. Me and my brother got to do extracurricular activities. And for me, what was so fascinating was that it wasn't until my late 20s or my early to mid 20s when we lost a family member, my aunt. And she was that key and that access point for me to really start to get into this world of spirituality. Not right away because there was a lot of grief. She was like the glue to our family. She was someone who led her life with, vision and dreams and going where she wanted and buying the things that she wanted and traveling the world and really truly living her best life. And that was always such a beautiful role model for me. And so when she left, it really left a big hole in my life. And shortly after her passing, my husband went down this crisis hill of getting diagnosed with congenital heart failure. And it ended up being 2 years of him going in and out of open heart surgeries. That was only supposed to be one, and he ended up having 4. In that time frame as well, we also had a son. We were blessed with a son, and he ended up having open heart surgery at 4 months old. And so in all of this, in the grief and the trauma and the tragedy and the I don't even know what's going to happen here, eventually we got to this point where the doctors finally said that we could slow down and heal. And I had no idea what healing meant. I didn't even know what slowing down meant because I was in such a hypervigilant state for so long in my life at this point. And I had to really stop and take a hard look in the mirror and just really ask myself, who am I going to be in this? I know that everything happens for a reason, or at least I'm trying to trust that that's the case. And as a mother, as a wife, what was that going to look like for us moving forward? We really heavily relied on family because he needed a full-time caregiver to go through all of that. And also there wasn't much he could do with our son because he just wasn't able to lift or really move around much from all the surgeries. And so I started just listening to podcasts and listening to people create these miraculous experiences and transformations and be of service because of some form of tragedy in their life. And I thought, well, okay, maybe this is that sign. Like, okay, what's a sign? Okay, maybe it's a sign. And I found myself manifesting my way into a certified mediumship program. And I was never, like I said, the person to think that this was possible for me. I knew if one person could do it, anyone could. It just took time, attention, and intention. And so I thought, well, at the very least, maybe this could help me, heal that experience with my aunt. Not even realizing that 6 out of 18 modules in, I'd be sitting there with my mouth to the floor and my eyes wide open, like, how did I miss this stuff? How do we not know about this? And at this point, I was really only just learning about intuition, just what it is and the components of it and connecting with it. And I just felt this calling within me. It was something I'd never felt before in my life. It was like all of a sudden, I just knew that I had to go and press go live on Facebook, which scared the crap out of me. And I thought that if I at least made my own personal private page, that everybody I knew wouldn't see this stuff, so I didn't have to deal with that. But it turns out I just pressed go live on my personal page anyways, so I outed myself right away. And to make a long story short, it was this calling within me that just knew I needed to tell people about this good news that, we're living life the wrong way. We have no idea what we're doing. And there is something so much more miraculous that we can really connect into. And it was our intuition. And the more that it became a muscle that I exercised like anything, a lifestyle that I led with intuitively, it really showed me the profound effects of change when we lead with energy and spirit. And as I went into offering readings, at the core of everyone's sessions, no matter what they were coming with, they were disconnected from their intuition. And so I started to dig more into behavioral studies and cognitive therapy and emotional freedom techniques and just how people work more psychologically, because I would understand very quickly that holding space in a reading is about processing emotions, grief and sadness and resentment and anger and frustration and overwhelm and happiness and joy and all those things. But you had to have a better grasp on what you were actually doing. And the science is just as important as the spiritual component of it. And so I just started coaching and watching women's lives change and men's, and just their ability to be better people and live more peaceful lives and heal from anxiety and depression that they had spent years thinking that was the only way they were going to live their life. And it was this miracle. And it was so fascinating to me because I never thought I could do something like this. And then 4.5 years later, I can't shut up about it. So
absolutely. And I know how you feel, because what really does encourage you is watching these people, the aha moments they have, and watching their eyes light up. And it's just amazing. But I've got to take my hat off to, and I don't mean to sound old in this, but the younger generation, because we didn't have the internet, for goodness sake, let alone, having the option of podcasts or watching videos or anything like that. So everything I learned, I had to learn from books or from trial and error. So my poor friends, they got a lot of counselling when they probably didn't want it. But I did find that they actually used to keep coming back, and I'd keep going, why? Why are you coming back? Because they wanted more. They wanted to learn more. They wanted to get that understanding. So, yeah, it definitely is the ultimate to watch people experience that aha moment. I loved it. I absolutely love it. But I take my hat off to you again when you went live on Facebook, because I really struggled with that. Mind you, my coming out, or whatever it was, my spirituality was a longer and probably a slower process, and there was nothing to come out to. So me, when I first started on Facebook and any of those areas, I didn't even mention anything like that. And I don't know why. I just didn't. It was me. It was my personal stuff. So I was happy to share, children and all the rest of it. But I actually have a particular moment where I did come out on Facebook, and it was like, okay, this is what I'm doing, guys. And it was really quite empowering. But that is terrific, and I really totally get that we have those areas of hardship and trial and challenges that really, that they are those catalysts for making us change, and that's what's really, really beautiful about all those hard times. As much as there's, you look at those hard times and it's not beautiful, there is a beautiful element to it if we can change those up. But I want to know what a spiritual activator is all about. Do I need my spirit activated? Am I in tune? Am I doing things right or wrong? Come on, you've got to let me know.
Oh, I love this question so much. It's so fascinating because for me, I was like, what's that catch? We whenever we're buying anything, whenever we're doing anything, it's because there's a catch. There's something in it we gain, we experience, there is a goal, there is an outcome on the other side. And so for me, the more I leaned into, I feel like the thing that entrepreneurs always really struggle with is, what's my title? What am I going to call myself? Okay, well, life coach. Well, everybody knows a life coach. Well, it's like, okay, well, I just let God fill in the blanks for me. And when I realized that my forte was really in teaching and training people about their intuition, I can have somebody sit down in front of me for 60 minutes or less, and I can have them connect to their intuition. And it's so fascinating because, like you said, it's those light bulb moments, it's those ahas where it's like, whoa, and the lights turn on, the switches start turning on, new neurocircuitry starts firing and wiring, because it's like something just turned on within me. And I realized what I was doing was I was activating the spirit within people, where if we are living our lives and doing the same things every day, talking to the same people, have the same habits, have the same experiences, have the same beliefs, and we never check in and we never question it and we never do anything differently, our life will be the same. But
Absolutely.
when you go through an experience of turning on your intuition, even just in a 60-minute session or less, you have this spark of awareness that you can't not see wherever you go. You realize that there's something so much more powerful within you that you don't even know what you connected into. And what was so cool is I would have clients coming to me. I do one-off 60 or 90-minute sessions, and I would have them come into these and they're like, okay, I want to try this. I don't know. I don't think I'm ready for coaching yet. My life's pretty good. I want to get more into the intuition stuff. I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do it. And they come in and they'd have this mind-blowing experience. And I always say, I give post-work, I'm like, after this, I really encourage you to make a habit out of keeping a journal with you. You might think it's silly. You might think it's a burden. You might think this is, the most complicated thing in your life. You've never done it before. But I highly recommend that you bring a journal with you, because over the next 7 days, you're going to have so many moments of aha and awareness that you're probably not going to know much of what to do with it. But at least if you have your journal, you can start documenting the experiences. And I would have clients come back to me a week later and they'd be like, wow, I don't journal and I can't put this thing down. Or this thing happened to me. I was in this conversation with this person and I started to feel their emotions coming through, and I'd ask them about it. Whereas before I'd be so asleep to it and I just kind of chalk it off to that's, their life. That's who they are. And it led us into so much more profound conversations. Or, I went into work and I had so much more confidence because I couldn't believe I just did this thing yesterday. And I asked for the raise and I got it, or I'm going to be getting it. And I realized what was happening was the spirit within them was coming to life again. And for so many people, it lays dormant in their system. And for, most throughout our time, we just didn't even turn it on at all. But because we have so much access to information and technology and people now, like this beautiful divine connection right now, there's no reason why we can't. And when you activate that spirit within you, that's where the magic really happens. So I was like, okay, let's do this. Let's do it.
That is fantastic. And of course, journaling is one of those tools which is so good to do that, because you're not only getting it on paper, you're actually seeing it again, you're reading it again, and it really starts to concrete it. But before we go any further, Rylee, I need to say that Rylee has got a self-help journal on Amazon, and it is called My Higher Self Journal. And so it's on Amazon. It's all about Rylee. So that's a journal that they can actually write in?
Yes, Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole premise of it is for you to write as if you are your higher self. So I know we'll get into this because it's always such a beautiful topic. And I love how you say in power versus empower, because
Yeah.
that's what it is. It's the power of now. So this journal really sets you up to be in that power now versus waiting for that future version of you who doesn't exist yet to hopefully one day show up.
Yes, and that's another thing I want to talk to you, because on Riley's bio, when she sent it to me, and look, with a lot of the people, all I can do is look at their bio and look at their website and try and get an understanding. But intuitively, stuff pops out at me. And one of the things that Riley has written on there is the power of who you are in this moment now. I want to go into that a little bit deeper, because you are the spiritual activator, so people can get that from you. But what's all about the moment now, the power of who we are now? What does that mean?
This is my favorite question. So, Susan, I want to share this vision with you because it was really what became a huge catalytic moment in my life. You know, we talk about the aha moments, we talk about the light bulbs turning off, all of us or turning on, and all of a sudden things start changing. You know, my aunt's passing was one of those things for me. Getting into this certified psychic mediumship program was another one. Realizing that people needed to be taught intuition, going into coaching, this was another big pivotal moment for me. And this started probably about 6 or 7 months ago. I was in meditation and I was, doing the things, sitting there. I started meditating in silence because I realized that you get to this certain point where you become almost numb to whether it's a guided meditation or a music meditation or a walking meditation. And I really wanted to practice what could come through me when I was just in the purest of silence. And I had this vision and I could see it so clearly. It was like the yellow brick road of Oz, and you were walking down it. And on one side is all of this green grass, and it was blossoming flowers. It was Lamborghinis. It was whatever you could imagine it to be. And on the other side was this dark, rolling, dead hill. And everything was just kind of dreary and not happy, not great. And what I realized on this path was that every single person, no matter what your checkpoint is, no matter where you're going to, what that thing is you're striving for, you always have this dualistic experience in life. You can select this side of I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy enough, or victim mentality of whatever it is that you're struggling with. Or it can be this, look at this green grass, look at these blossoming flowers, look at this abundance, look at, my beautiful family, look at the health that we do have. And I realized that whatever that thing I was striving for, the energy of it already existed now. It existed in the presence of everything that already surrounded me. And the more and more that I began to cultivate gratitude from this place, versus in spirituality, it's often taught, go to the future or build the vision board and bring that energy back to you. And I constantly found myself just so pulled out of my energy, pulled out of my spirit. And I was like, how, what is that better way? What is that way to really cultivate the power of now? And I'm like, oh, and there's that vision. And then I got the message, and it was like the empowerment I was seeking in the future already existed in me. And the more I cultivated it and the more I found gratitude and right where I was, everything just began to expand and multiply and unfold. And I was like, that's it. That's the golden message. That's what the yellow brick road was all about. And it changed everything.
Wow, that's amazing. And look, people that are listening on the podcast didn't see this, but I just wanted to bring this forward. When you started talking about the vision that you had, you closed your eyes and you actually brought that vision back to your mind, back to your thoughts, back to your vision, internal vision. And this is one of those things that we can do to help us stay on track. So when you've had this beautiful moment in a meditation, in a peaceful, a passive meditation, and you can bring that back to life, whatever you're doing, wherever you are, just by basically closing your eyes and re-feeling it again. And I love how you've done that. I just wanted to explain that on the podcast, because people didn't see you do that. If they're watching the video, they can see you do that. And they do, because we often talk about our experiences and everything else. And when we're talking about a negative experience, straight away we can go back into that negative experience. We can feel it. We can absorb it. We can just wallow in it. We can feel yucky in it. But we can also do the same with the positive ones. So watching your face as you had your eyes closed and you're going, and I did this and I could see that, we could feel it. We
Yes.
could see and jump into that vision as well. And if we can do that, holy dooly, how are you feeling it? Like how strong and how important that is. And as you say, it's that power of now. You're sitting there with it now. You did it back then, maybe, like you said, 6 months ago, but you're bringing that forward constantly, and you're bringing a positive feeling forward, a positive way to do that. And as you say, all that energy is there. It's whether you're wanting to attach to it, if you want to hone into it, or whether you don't. And we all have that choice. It's such a beautiful choice. I loved that. I wasn't expecting to say that, but after watching you, it was really nice to see that. And people can do that because it's just a matter of focusing on that. Before we go any further, I just want to say, because again, the ticker is going past, but people don't see it on the podcast. And that's the website. So if you want to connect with Rylee on the website, it is www.ryleejune.ca. Now, Rylee is spelled RYLEE, June as in the month of June. So it's ryleejune.ca. So, okay, so that is the power of now. And when we start to look at that, the other aspect you put in is who you are at this moment. So when we're saying who you are, you're referring to what you're focusing on in this moment, and that is how we can change who we are if we're in that negative. I'm asking, really, not saying. Is that how we can change who we are in this particular moment and improve how we go forward? Is that how we're looking?
Yeah, absolutely. It's even like in that vision where it was, there's all this futuristic component of you, the house, the cars, the cottage in the forest with the garden, whatever that dream life looks like for you. But right now is when that future version of you that exists somewhere in your imagination is waiting for you today to decide that even becomes a story that gets told. And for me, that was really powerful to realize. Again, in another meditation, this message came to me, and it was like, I opened my eyes and it was like, duh, of course it is, right? We always think we're waiting for the permission from our future self. We're always waiting for the empowerment from our future self. But what we're actually doing is our future self is waiting for you today to decide. And so as you stand in that place of really captivating this power that you have to cultivate right now, everything else changes. It's like a drop of water in a pond. My husband always says you can be the fresh water in the drop of pond and be the freshwater drop in a freshwater drop of pond. I'm not saying that right. A drop of water in a freshwater pond. There we go. I'm like, I can see it, but I'm not saying it right. And the ripple effect is going to be fresh. It's going to be positive. It's going to be profound. And, I want to just kind of create this understanding that just because something might happen, a challenge may arise, it doesn't mean that you're not doing enough or good enough or whatever that is. Like, we're all doing the best that we can at every given moment in time. But the opposing side is you could be a saltwater drop in a freshwater pond. There we go. I got it right. And it can create this negative effect. And what I realized is that if I was constantly waiting for my future self to appear to me now, a version that didn't even exist, because there's a whole journey to go on to get to her, that I was actually just perpetuating me being this salt water drop. And I couldn't figure out why certain things weren't coming together as smoothly as others, and why certain things were taking so much more time. And when I realized that right now was who the version I was right now held the key to that success in the future, that peace in the future, that love in the future, that confidence and acceptance in the future, everything changed. And I was that drop of water in the freshwater pond again. And it became this eye-opening experience. It was really, really so beautiful. And now I just lead with that. I'm like, hey, do you know that healing can be way easier than we think it is? It's kind of been overcomplicated along the way. I mean, of course, there's deep bouts of things that we store, of course, and they don't just like move out of your system overnight in most cases. But, life is life and challenges arise. But forgiveness and acceptance and love is truly that trifecta that heals it all. And you can only find that right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. If we sort of go, I'll think of healing tomorrow, it's not going to start, because there's no such thing as tomorrow. It never comes. Tomorrow is always tomorrow. So yeah, it is all about the now and what we're doing and how we're putting that out there. The other aspect too, when you were talking, Rylee, was that when we're starting to look at that, the vision, I really love the vision. It was really easy to understand and really clear. When we're looking at that vision, if you choose to turn your back to that beautiful positive aspect and just focus on the negative, that is exactly all you'll see, because you've turned your back to everything else. And I often talk about with the law of attraction, when they talk about the law of attraction, when you're asking for something and you're going, oh shit, I haven't got it and I want money, you're not likely to get it in the manner that you want it. Whereas if you say, oh, okay, I'd really love some money to be able to do this, and you say it in a more positive way, and you're putting it out there, it changes the whole context of it. It changes everything about it. And so it's not necessarily what you're putting out there, it's the way you're putting it out. And again, if you're facing that crappy, bland, dark hill, and that's all you're seeing, that's all you're putting out, you've got to turn and look for the positives. You've got to do that. And the only time to do that is, as you say, it's now. It's the power of now. So that is just, yeah, I really like that. All right, I'm gonna throw you in the deep end now, Rylee. I want to get a bit of a take-home tip, something that the listeners can do right now to help them with their next part of their journey. If it's about activating their spirituality or activating their spirit, what is something they could do right now without giving away your IP? You don't have to do that. Just something simple that they can start to look at to get an understanding of that first step, going that way.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to give it all away because that's just what I love to do. And honestly, I believe that the knowledge that we carry is just so valuable that if someone's meant to go deeper into it, they will. So I'll share with you my three favorite things that anyone can take. You can take one of them, you can take all of them, some of them, it's totally up to you. But the first one is silence. And this is the one where you really learn to cultivate a deeper sense of self-awareness, because oftentimes, hey buddy, love you.
Hello, we've got a little fella that's come in and just said hello. That is your son. Yeah, he's gorgeous. You have to see that on the video if you want to see that. He was gorgeous. He's saying goodnight to Mummy.
Yeah, it's my favorite part of this.
Sorry, Rylee.
It's all good. So the first one is silence, and that's carving out, you can pick your time. I usually recommend anywhere between 10 to 20 minutes a day. And why a day, or why every day, is because if you don't start creating new habits and patterns for yourself, it's going to be really challenging for you to see why or where you're stuck or blocked or limited or feeling like you're hung up. So silence is really radically important. And that's also going to give you a lot of insight into how much chaos is actually existing within your mind and your body and your feelings. I found silence, period, any of it, super uncomfortable for me at first. And I find that a lot of my clients do, especially if you're someone that suffers or suffered from anxiety or trauma, or just, dealing with always being very emotionally sensitive. When you get into silence for yourself, it is all going to come up, because there's little voices going on all the time within our head and our mind and our bodies. And they're trying to talk to us, and they're trying to share things with us. And this could be past versions of us. This could be, intuitive messages. This could be something you haven't quite processed yet. And they all have a say and a sway. So silence really helps you to not only become more aware of how much is actually stored in your energy field, but also your ability to start learning to manage it. And I don't like to use the word control, because then it gives this sense of like, oh, I got to shut this down. but to manage it. And so that second component is breathing. Breathing is free. It's one of the most powerful tools that we have. It is our breath of life. It is what keeps us moving, motivated, on this beautiful journey. And when you start to feel, whether it's in silence or whether it's throughout your day, anyone who carries or has anxious tendencies, you'll know pausing. If you need to, close your eyes so you can disconnect from your reality and just start taking nice big deep breaths in so you can regulate your nervous system is what's going to help you to really start to just slow down all the noise and really help you to get into that state of flow. And last but not least is practicing compassion. This is one of my favorite ones because oftentimes people will say to me, well, practicing compassion, like I'm not a judgmental person and, I'm a really great person. And, I always try to do my best, and absolutely they do. And absolutely I do. And absolutely you do. But compassion is something that I feel really goes overlooked and unnoticed when we have all those voices turned up all the way, the dials turned up. So when we practice silence and we create new habits of creating self-awareness, and we breathe to neutralize our energy, and we practice compassion in our daily lives, not only just to others, but also most importantly to ourselves, because what we do for ourselves is what we will be able to do for others, gives you this ability to honestly shift into an entirely different frequency, which is one of more peace and calming and awareness and connection.
Oh, I love that. That is amazing. And the silence is the world has got, I thought I was busy when I had 3 children in 3 years. So I took a little while to work out what was causing it before I stopped. But it was like, whoa, I thought I was busy, but the world today, it just seems so much busier. We're getting bombarded from all over the place. And that silence is just so important. But I agree with you. When I did my life coaching course, one of the things we had to do was learn how to meditate. And the first thing they said, you've got to practice, start 5 minutes a day every day, we get those habits happening and rah, rah, rah. I absolutely agree with you. If we do not start to do it and put those habits in place, we will never, ever get there. You just cannot do it unless you give yourself the time and the permission and the space to actually do that. And so it's really, really important. And one of the things I know when I first started doing it, like you said, it wasn't easy. Everything, oh, I've got to hang up the washing. Oh, I've got to pick up the kids. Oh, I've got to do this. Oh, I've got all these thoughts are, why are you sitting there when you should be, cleaning the house? All these sorts of things would come into you. And what I say is just sit there and do it. Even if you're just going to say, okay, I'm going to give myself 5 minutes. I might not be able to be silent, but I'm going to sit there for 5 minutes. I'm not getting up until I have done my 5 minutes. And I used to put the time on. Oh, boy, it was challenging because I'm a bit of a doer as well. And it's like, I've got to do this, got to do this, got to do this is more important. What am I doing? What am I doing? And it got to the stage where I really did give myself that 5 minutes. And then it was like, oh, hey, I like this. And it went to 10 minutes. Yeah. And then it was like, I'm towards the end, don't tell the ex-husband, but towards the end, I'd be sitting there for an hour and a half and just like I just loving it. You just don't realize how nice silence is until you're actually practicing it. You really don't. You really, really don't. And I understand the breathing too, and especially when you're using breathing externally. No, that doesn't sound right. You're breathing internally, but when you're sitting in silence, you're in your own space. So you've got that, you've got the ability to have that silence. But when you're going, the breathing, the best part about the breathing is you can do that when you're out and about and people don't need to know about it. Like it's something that's really, really proactive and they don't need to know about it. So I really love that. And of course, compassion. How hard is it? And I don't mean to keep going over the stuff but I love what you're saying. But how hard is it to have compassion when you start seeing things on Facebook or on, the social media, even on the big media, when you start seeing things like that and you have an opinion, you have an opinion.
Yeah.
But and it's those areas where compassion, it's really easy to give your little son compassion because he's your little son. It's easy to give your partner compassion. How hard is it to give compassion to somebody that is doing something completely against what you feel they should be doing? That's when you've got to give compassion. And that's probably the hardest time to do it. But that's when you know that compassion is really, when you can forgive. They're allowed to be who they are. They don't have to be what you say and what you do. And compassion is not about saying what they're doing is right. It's about allowing that to be and not having that emotional attachment to it. So I totally get where you're coming from. That's really cool. One of the things, and why I go through it, I don't mean to go on and on, Rylee, but
no, I love it. Go.
Why I did it, like one of my triggers, like yours was losing your auntie and your husband's heart condition, which would have been challenging, and then your son. So I again have mine, but mine was I was attacked. I was involved in a pack rape. So, and I was the victim, for want of another word. And when that happened with me, I actually asked while it was happening, how can I stop these people doing it again? Because I can't stop them doing it to me. How can I stop them doing it again? And I actually left my body. That's why I practice intuition. That's why I'm right into it, because I know we've got a spiritual side and a physical side. And that was my real aha moment there. But when I'd left my body, we actually don't have that emotional attachment. And that's why we can be compassionate, because as a spirit, you don't have an emotional attachment. You don't have a feeling to that. So I could see what was happening to her. And I call it her because it was the shell of me. I could see what was happening to her. You could see the energy that where she was punched in the face, and you could see the blood coming out of her hair, but you couldn't feel it. You didn't feel it. There was not those senses. And I had this message to go back and forgive them as they were doing it. And this is where I sort of look at compassion too. So I come back into my body. Oh, then you felt everything, I can assure you. I came back into my body, and it was like I started praying to them. I'm not a religious person, but I started praying. And it was like, forgive them, Lord. I only knew 2 prayers, so I'm not real good. Forgive them, Lord, for they know not what they do, was what I said. And I would say it out loud in their faces. And they didn't like it, so they'd hit me more. But I kept on going. And I know I wasn't doing it for them. I was doing that for me. And that was what where part of that compassion comes in. So, I love where you're going with that. Those 3 simple steps to get you to where you need to be, and to be mindful of it. Do the silence, do the breathing, and practice compassion. And you may not be able to do it that way. And oh my goodness, if somebody told me to do that, there's no way known I would have done it. It just sort of happened. As you can imagine. But to be able to practice those 3 basic steps, everyone can do that. It's not hard. I love that. Thank you so much. Tell me more. What else? Hang on. What have you got on your list? You talk about heart-centered space. What's a heart-centered space? Come on.
Love it. First, I just want to circle back and I have goosebumps all over my body from you sharing that beautiful and vulnerable story, because I often tend to find that it is those moments where people have those out-of-body experiences where they're like, what's going on? And that's the beauty about connecting with your intuition. And this actually leads into your question, because when as human beings, physically, we have emotions. That's how we govern our lives, but we also are told to lead with them. So there's all these things about safe spaces and, just feel into the depth of it. And in some cases it's relevant because we have to feel to heal. So that's important. But it's when we allow our emotions to take the driver's seat where it can become very difficult for many, many people. And I see a lot of people who suffer from anxiety, and disclaimer, I'm not a therapist, so don't take this as replacement advice from your licensed therapist. But when I work with people who suffer from anxiety, it's because their emotions are in the driver's seat. And what happens when you come into a heart-centered space, and ultimately what that is it's really practicing that third component, which is compassion. And I loved how you said, it's easy to look at the world right now and right away, everybody in 2020 went left or right, black or white, this side or that side. And so it was such a fascinating, I remember when it all just started taking place and I stood back because I was very much in what I do now. And I was like, ooh, okay, what's going on right now? This is interesting. And at first, sure, it was scary. Nobody knew what was going on. We never experienced this in our lifetime. So it's like, what do I do here? But it was interesting to see the dynamic of people really letting their emotions drive the show. And I'm so grateful that I had the tools that I did then and really got to put them into practice, especially because, like you said, it's one thing to practice compassion for your son. It's another to practice it towards someone who doesn't believe the same thing that you do. And that was when I really started to become neutral, not numb, because numb and neutral is two different things. One is avoidance and one is in the understanding that everyone's truly on their own journey. And that's what a heart-centered space is. It's practicing that compassion so much so that you're able to set those boundaries with people in your life who are maybe at the extreme end toxic, or just not necessarily serving the growth of where you're going, or really taking that courageous leap and knowing that something so much greater is catching you and helping you soar. And in that practicing of compassion, your emotions aren't driving the show. So you have such a profound connection to love. And when we work with the energy of love, it is a weapon not of this world. It is something that transcends space and time in all the best of ways. And it helps heal generations. And ultimately, the more you connect with your intuition, the more you practice silence, you change your habits, you neutralize your emotional flare-ups or reactions, and you heal from your past and you practice compassion, you're able to lead with this love. And most people go into life coaching or programs or whatever because they want self-love and self-acceptance. And what they come to find is that what they were seeking this whole time was honestly just like a faith to know that they didn't have to be in the driver's seat anymore, that their emotions didn't have to be in the driver's seat anymore, that something so much greater was guiding them. And it's this beautiful, profound experience of just opening your heart up to knowing that there is such a grandiose plan for your life. And when you cultivate the power and gratitude of now from a heart-centered, open, loving, divine, compassionate space, but again, that doesn't negate you from the challenges that you will face because there are always growing opportunities, but you find yourself so deeply held. And to me, that has been irreplaceable from everything else that I have learned. And like anything, it's a practice to get there.
Yes. Oh, that was really lovely said. Thank you. One of the areas that I have like that I picked up was when we're talking about that heart-centered space, and we're talking about not having the emotions in the driver's seat. It's really challenging because intuition will use emotions as part of their intuitive messages, but it's understanding the difference. So one of the things that I've always said is that the emotions are something we put out externally. So if we're angry, you'll see it. If we're in love, you'll see it. Whereas feelings are something that we hold internally. So it's that expression that's going out because emotion is energy in motion. So, so it's really interesting in that context. But the other aspect is it's bloody hard to try and work out when you sort of got to go follow your heart, which is a lot about the emotions, and then you sort of got to go, yeah, but you don't. And it's getting that happy balance. And as you know, it's the silence. It's sitting in that space and getting the understanding. You're getting those intuitive messages rather than just going with the emotion that may have been triggered in you. Really, that is gorgeous. But I want to just reiterate your website and your book. Because we are getting a bit low on time. Actually, we're getting close to end of time. And I want to pass it over to you again, Rylee, just before we go. But look at the book. It's on Amazon, and it is My Highest Self Journal on Amazon by Rylee. And that's a really good book. Oh, it's a journal. So it's a really good tool is what I was going to say. A really good tool to help you start finding or getting you closer towards your higher self. And I mean, in all honesty, your higher self's there all the time. It's you getting an awareness of it, and that's what the journal will do. But the other aspect too I want to bring forward is Rylee's website, which is ryleejune.ca. Now, Rylee is RYLEE, June as in the month, and .cal, not cal, sorry, .ca, where I got that from. That will make you remember. But for one last thing, thank you so much for being on the show. Rylee, can I just throw it over to you? Have you got one more thing to tell us?
Yes. And first of all, I just want to say thank you so much, Susan, for having me here today. And to anyone who's found this message and listened, feel free to reach out. I'm at Rylee June on Instagram as well. Come say hi. Let me know the takeaways from this place. I know as a podcast host myself, and I'm so excited to have you on my show next week as well, Susan. We're going to really get into your story. And I'm super excited. We don't always get to see, the ripple effect that we get to create. So I'd love to hear your takeaway. If you feel called to reach out. And I'd love to leave you with this, is that life was never about getting to the destiny or the destination. It was always about enjoying the journey along the way, because tomorrow is never promised and yesterday doesn't exist. And the only place that you have is right now. The only energy source that you get to pull anything from is right now. And the more and more that you allow yourself to not only first find acceptance in it, but also find peace in it, honestly, truly, genuinely, the easier your life is going to be, because in that space, you get to cultivate such a profound sense of faith that everything is just going to work out. And ultimately, that is intuition in a nutshell, is just listening to that language of your soul, of energy that is flowing through you constantly as you breathe, as you live, and is always providing messages. You're never lost. You are always found, but you do have to be willing to choose that for yourself. It's why we have free will.
Ah, that's lovely. And it is, when you were saying that, it's that beautiful, when you're sitting there, it's that beautiful peace that you feel. Yes, sure, it's going to take a little while to get there. It might take a week or two or whatever. I know it took me a little while. But when you get there, mate, it's very hard to leave sometimes. Yes. It really is. And it is so peaceful. It's beautiful. All right, that's it. Thank you so much for being on the show. That was really cool. I really enjoyed that. And you've got lovely energy. You need to stay on though, because I've got to talk to you just when we finish, but I'll do the wrap up. Thanks again, Rylee. That was great.
Thank you, Susan.
Oh, guys, connect with Rylee, like ryleejune.ca. Just get onto the website and have a look. I jumped on there and it was amazing. She's just got all these things happening. So she's got coaching and all different things happening on her website. So to have a little look, and what I really actually liked is when she said that we might be the drops into the water, into the pond, but we don't know what the ripple effect is. So I'd love to have some feedback on it. I get a few reviews and things on Apple Podcast, but it's really nice to get some feedback, because you do sometimes struggle, because all I'm really doing is sitting here in front of a screen talking to myself. That's all I can see, or my guest. So it's really nice to get some feedback. So please like, share, do what you need to do, and put something down. It'll be really lovely. Well, look, guys, have a great week. I will catch you again next week. What else do I have to say? Oh, don't forget, I'm doing those intuitive flower readings now. So if messages of love, I'm calling them intuitive messages of love, where you pick a flower image that represents somebody you love, and I do a reading on it. It's really fun. You'd be quite surprised what comes out of these flowers, like these are their goals in life, which is sort of my book there. Yep. Okay. So intuitive flowers, empowering your emotional goals, it is. So I am saying goodbye. Where's my buttons to press? And I'll catch you all soon. Bye for now.